Example 3, what curve is represented by the given parametric equations? We have x, which is equal to the sine of 2 times t. Y is equal to the cosine of 2 times t, where t is in between 0 and 2 pi. So let's go ahead and plug in and find out what x is. So x is going to equal sine times 2 times 0, and that gives us 0. So we know that this point here for x is 0. Now let's plug in y. So we want to find cosine of 2 times 0. We know that that's going to give us 1. So the first order pair is 0 and then 1. Okay, next we want to find the sine of 2 times pi divided by 2, which is just pi. So the sine of pi is going to give us 0. And then if we want to find the cosine of 2 times pi divided by 2, then we're going to get negative 1. So we get 0, negative 1. Okay, then we're going to have the sine of 2 times pi, and that's equal to 0. And the cosine of 2 times pi is going to equal 1. Now we have the sine of 3 pi over 2, and that's 2 times 3 pi over 2, so it's going to be sine of 2 times 3 pi divided by 2, which is just 3 pi. So the sine of 3 pi is going to give us 0. And the cosine of 2 times 3 pi over 2 is going to give us negative 1. And therefore, now we're going to get the sine, and that becomes 2 times 2, which is 4 pi. So what curve is represented by the given parametric equations in example 3? We have x, which is equal to sine of 2t, y is equal to cosine of 2t, where t is in between 0 and 2 pi. So we know that if we took x squared plus y squared and set that equal to 1, that would give us our circle with radius 1. Now let's go ahead and then plug in what we have for x. So that's sine of 2t squared plus the cosine of 2t squared. And does that equal 1? Well, it does, because this ends up being an identity. Sine squared of 2t plus the cosine squared of 2t equals 1. So this is also going to represent a unit circle. The only thing here is the value of 2 is going to tell you how many times you're going to go around that circle. So let's take a look at that graph here. Okay, so we're going to start, since sine of 2t is equal to x and the cosine of 2t is equal to y. And I'm going to revert back to the previous example here on my next page. Okay, you see here that x was equal to the cosine and y was equal to the sine. So our ordered pairs are now going to change. It's going to be 0, 1, and then 1, 0, and 0, negative 1. So that means that our starting point, okay, for our unit circle, and let's go ahead and put that in here. So our starting point for our unit circle, so when it was 0, it's going to be, if we're looking at when x is equal to the sine of t and y is equal to the cosine of t, okay, that means at the sine of 0 is going to be 0. And then the cosine of 0 is 1. Then the sine of pi over 2 is 1. The cosine of pi over 2 is 0. The sine of pi is 0. Cosine of pi is negative 1. The sine of 3 pi over 2 is negative 1. The cosine of 3 pi over 2 is 0. The sine of 2 pi is 0. And the cosine of 2 pi is 1. So we know that that is the original circle, what we can see in blue. But what that's telling us is, this is telling us what is the starting point. So this is the initial. And this is the end. So that means that here at 0, 1, we know that t is going to equal 0. So that's our starting point. And then we're going to go to pi over 2, since that's 1, 0. So 1, 0 is here, and that is when t is equal to pi over 2. And then we have 0, negative 1, where t is equal to pi. And then we have negative 1, 0, and that is where t is equal to 3 pi over 2. And then we have 0, 1 again, which starts here, and that is when t is equal to 2 pi. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and keep going because of the fact that we have this 2. So again, we're going to go back. We go here again, 1, 0, 0, negative 1, negative 1, 0, and then 0, 1. Okay, so because of the 2, that's telling us that we have to move more than once around. And you can see here that the arrows is telling us what the direction is. So let's summarize here. Okay, so as t increases from 0 to 2 pi, the point xy equals sine of 2t cosine of 2t starts at 0, 1, and it moves around the circle twice in a clockwise direction. And again, the twice is because of the fact that we had the sine of 2t and the cosine of 2t.